Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to this special CELPIP Vocabulary Masterclass Explainer. Today, we're not just memorizing some boring list of words. Oh no, we're doing something much more effective. We're strategically unpacking official CELPIP vocabulary right through the lens of Canadian culture. Because here's the secret. If you want a high score, you really need to understand the cultural nuances behind these words. So we're going to look at some key vocabulary, break down exactly how they function in everyday life here, and give you the precise strategies to deploy them in your exam.
So here is our game plan for today. We're conquering 4 distinct domains of Canadian life. 1. Home and neighborhood. 2. Work and social connections. 3. Intimate and family relationships. And 4. Adjectives for describing relationship health.
All right, starting right off with Section 1, Home and Neighborhood. These are your classic property and neighbor disputes. Property and neighbor disputes are literally the absolute classic scenarios for CELPIP Writing Task 1 and Speaking Task 6. Let's meet our core cast of characters, tenant and landlord. Both are 5-star nouns. Now, think about the collocations here. You might be a prospective tenant looking for a place, or you might be dealing with a strict landlord. But the deeply Canadian context here, it completely revolves around the basement suite. If you live in Canada, you know exactly what I mean. Noise disputes between the main floor landlord and the basement suite tenant are incredibly common here, and because of that, they are highly testable on the exam. So how do we actually apply this to the exam? Well, for writing Task 1, which is so often a complaint letter, you want to borrow exact, natural phrasing. If you get a noise complaint prompt, I want you to use the specific strategy phrase. As a fellow tenant, I am writing to complain about. You see, this immediately establishes your role in the situation. And for a little extra background knowledge, keep in mind that every single Canadian province has a landlord and tenant board to handle these exact kinds of disputes. Dropping that specific official term into a writing or speaking response shows the evaluators a massive level of cultural fluency.
Moving right along to our next vital word, neighbor. Now, a quick technical note here. Make absolutely sure you use the Canadian spelling with a U. That's N-E-I-G-H-B-O-U-R. It's a 5-star word that pairs perfectly with a noisy neighbor or your next-door neighbor. But in Canada, conflicts aren't just about noise, right? Oh no, they are very often about the weather.
Just listen to this quote. If my neighbor pushes the snow from his side of the driveway onto mine one more time, I am going to call city bylaw enforcement. I absolutely love this because it is just so authentically Canadian. We take our driveways and our snow shoveling very, very seriously during those brutal winters. And notice the threat right at the end there. Calling city bylaw enforcement. That's the local authority that handles neighborhood infractions. Using a term like that in a speaking task, it will absolutely blow the evaluators away.
Okay, let's shift gears to Section 2, Work and Social Connections. It's all about navigating professional boundaries. Let's compare 2 5-star workplace nouns, colleague and employee. Now, while coworker is perfectly fine for a casual chat, colleague is your absolute go-to word for formal writing. It sets a much more professional tone. So if the exam asks you to write an email, you might want to mention a former colleague or a senior colleague. Employee, on the other hand, well, that's your high-frequency baseline word. Think full-time employee or employee of the month. The main takeaway? Always default to colleague when you want your English to sound highly polished.
Now, this next word carries some heavy cultural weight in Canada, mentor. Mentorship is deeply embedded in Canadian corporate and government culture. It's a really big deal. For newcomers and new hires, mentorship programs are practically standard practice to help them integrate into the workplace. And let me tell you, the evaluators love it when you tap into this positive, supportive aspect of Canadian workplace culture.
Let's make this actionable. Here is your step-by-step blueprint for Speaking Task 8, which very often asks you to describe someone who had a major impact on your life. Step 1, identify the person. Start with something simple like, my boss Eileen. Step 2, state the impact clearly. Has taught me so much over the years. And then, step 3, deliver the clincher. I admire her and would definitely consider her my mentor. Boom. You've just delivered a highly structured, culturally resonant answer that checks all the boxes. Moving outside the office now, we have to navigate a very specific social boundary. See, in Canada, people are incredibly friendly, but they draw a really strict line between a true friend, someone you actually share a close personal bond with, and an acquaintance. An acquaintance is much more casual. You might say something like, I wouldn't exactly call him a friend, he's more of an acquaintance. It's a fantastic 3-star word to have in your arsenal, but watch out for the spelling on this one. Acquaintance. It's a bit tricky, but nailing it shows advanced proficiency.
Right, let's move on to Section 3, intimate and family relationships. The vocabulary here really reflects Canada's inclusive laws and traditions.
We've grouped 3 essential relationship words here. First up is partner. Now, Canada legally recognizes common law partners, and honestly, the word partner is widely used instead of husband, wife, boyfriend, or girlfriend. It's just highly inclusive. Next is fiancé, which is a beautiful French loanword. Weddings are huge social events in CELPIP prompts, so you'll need this one. And finally, relatives. Visiting extended relatives during Thanksgiving or Christmas is a deeply ingrained Canadian tradition. That makes it a perfect, relatable topic for small talk in your speaking tasks.
Notice the dual identity of the 4-star word engaged. It actually has 2 completely different tracks you can take. The personal meaning, of course, is getting married. Joe and I are finally engaged after 10 years. This is the absolute perfect scenario for speaking task 1, when you have to share some good news with a friend. But please, don't forget the professional meaning, employee dedication, or being engaged in your work. Recognizing both of these meanings allows you to adapt instantly to whatever prompt the test throws your way. But on the flip side of engagement, we sometimes run into this scenario. They were married for almost 40 years before their divorce last year. It's a shame to see the relationship fall apart. You know, divorce is a very common, untaboo subject in Canada. You're going to frequently hear this vocabulary, along with phrasal verbs like fall apart, in the long dialogues of the listening section. So don't let it catch you off guard. It's just a standard part of the cultural landscape. And finally, Section 4, adjectives. This is all about describing the exact health of a relationship. Let's look at close and distant. If you are close, you have a tight bond. Simple enough. But relationships change, right? A fantastic, incredibly native-sounding phrase to use is that you and a close friend have drifted apart. Conversely, distant is super versatile. It can mean emotional coldness, or it can mean literal physical geography, like if your friend just packed up and moved to another province like Nova Scotia or Alberta.
And that brings us to what I like to call our ultimate secret weapon, strained. It means tense or unnatural. You could have a strained relationship or find yourself in a strained atmosphere. I rate this at a full 5 stars because it is, without a doubt, the ultimate diplomatic vocabulary word. Canadians really, really value politeness. When you need to explain a workplace conflict politely, you absolutely don't say, "We hate each other." Instead, you say, "Our relationship has been strained." Think about task 6, which asks you to handle a difficult situation, like maybe refusing to work with a colleague. Here is exactly how you use our secret weapon. Step 1, acknowledge the conflict politely. Don't avoid it. Step 2, deploy the word as your excuse. Since that disagreement last month, our relationship has been somewhat strained. You see how polite, professional, and clear that is? Then, step 3, propose a professional workaround. Using this word alone elevates your entire response from good to absolutely stellar.
So, we have covered 15 critical words and strategies today. But the real question is this. When you face a seemingly impossible interpersonal conflict on your next CELPIP test, are you going to freeze up? Or will you deploy the word strained to conquer the situation and score a perfect 12? I want you to take these concepts and actually practice them out loud. Keep learning, keep pushing yourself, and we'll catch you in the next explainer session.